time for another round of brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand with your hosts, Riley Newman and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
So today, actually, I was unaware of this. I listened to a ton of podcasts, but it randomly came up as a recommendation, and it was a baking
Which is
podcast.
weird. Why did a baking podcast? I mean, you don't bake, your wife does, but you don't bake as far as
I was very confused when
Unless
it came
you're a
up.
closet baker.
I think it... closet baker. I bake in the closet. I think it came up because they added video, and then Apple's pushing video now, and so it said, now with video.
Okay.
And the name of the podcast is Things Bakers Know. And the color palette was very familiar to me because it was King Arthur flour. And my wife, she bakes a lot, so I'm used to that brand. And right away, it caught my attention because the mic looks like a loaf of bread. Like it's pretty.
I like the artwork, the brand design for the podcast cover is pretty cool.
And it says the
Pretty
King
badass.
Arthur Baking Podcast. And it's really interesting because this brand that's all about baking starts, they interview people per episode, and they cover things like croissants, talking tortillas, fudge cake, vanilla, New York pizza, all these different topics of baking things. And I'm like, it's actually really cool because they're creating their own little media channels, and they have like almost 500, or no, they have 600 reviews and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's been around, but it's new to me, and I thought it was a great way this brand jumping out of the baking aisle to podcast land.
Reaching podcast. Well, it'd be like, for instance, like if Craftsman Tools started doing like Tools 101,
Yeah.
and I'm waiting for a tool company to come along and go, don't give me all the tight specs. Like, what's the difference between these types and these types? All the different types
That
of
would be a good idea.
Hand tool that do different functions and what they do it for.
And the host would be Tim Allen, and you call it Home Improvement.
Oh, what a great idea!
Hey, neighbor.
Anyway, so that's a cool move. Again, it was one of those things where we gave a little bit of applause because here's a brand that is in one aisle. They sell, a component to bakers, to then appease and spend the time and money and energy to put together a podcast that reaches out to bakers.
Yeah, it just makes the brand way more relevant and way more just like, it's like almost reverse Martha Stewart, where you have a commodity business going from flour, premium flour, but going from flour to media, versus Martha Stewart is media, and now
She's got her own line of,
all kinds of
she'll
stuff.
have her own line of flour soon, who knows. But that's not what we're talking about. In a way we are, because it was a podcast. We're talking about, we're talking about like obviously brand and how to express brand, but one of the key things is social media. But what we're finding is that the brand, talk about lack of clarity and inconsistency, is that someone may have a great brand, but then they hand over their social media to someone that's like, oh, I do social media, and it's like an outside contractor, and that person starts providing content. And that content, what they say it, how they visually communicate that, is many times different, or is signaling different things than what the rest of the brand's touch points are trying to do. And it's counterproductive.
What's really hard about it is that social media has gotten to this point where it's completely all about volume. You need to be posting this frequent. You need to do it multiple times a day, post at this times, post videos, post stories, post, reels, post all kinds of things. And then there's multiple platforms on top of that. So really the whole nature of social media has become just a volume play. And that's also why I don't like the word content, is that content to me is just like, okay, fire hose, just make as much as you can and spew it across the internet, and hopefully you capture someone's attention and they wander over to your website and buy something. And that's just not a good play. And that even the way I describe that sounds very not strategic at all. Like, it sounds very just like, just throw the net out and hope for fish to come. And so by default, it's automatically counter strategy. It's automatically counter long term. It's automatically going to be commoditized, and because it's about volume, it's about quantity, and so you're trying to do something for as cheap as possible because you have to do so much of it. And that becomes a problem because you're going to sacrifice quality for that. Either you can't afford someone to actually spend the amount of time and effort and energy to do it properly, and so you're going to have some, I don't know, college graduate or someone who's going to intern for you and do it for very cheap and do a very bad job and just get content up, and it'll look like you're doing something, but it's not actually being productive. It's not actually effective in moving the needle in the way that the brand needs to move. And so that's kind of the problem here, is that it's almost like busy work, and that bothers the heck out of me.
I think companies that do social media well are ones where they have multiple people that are working with the social media. So you might have someone that is good with knowing, algorithms, knowing the right hashtags, knowing the right time of day or week to be posting content depending on when is most engaging for the audience. They know, and they do it a lot, so they understand the idea of consistency and just how to keep it fresh and moving. And that's the strength it can bring to the table.
Yeah, and it's not so much soft pedaling and being like, okay, well, Sally or little Joe's doing a good job with the social media account. He logs in the morning and works from home and posts here and there or whatever. And to me, it's like, it goes back to what we've always talked about, is like how you do anything is how you do everything. And brand is that the consistency of being a certain way and acting a certain way and holding a certain tone is more important than just grabbing someone's attention because you're doing a funny TikTok dance or doing something trendy. Yeah. And so it comes down to realizing that and going, okay, social media it's not just a post. It's not just content. It actually is, it's a signal. You are signaling, you're creating a tone, you're expanding the brand out in this touch point. And it needs to be treated as such. It's just like, you wouldn't just create business cards and you wouldn't just create flyers and start handing them out and printing them on whatever. It's like, no, those should be thought out and deliberate just as much as your social media. And unfortunately, the nature of social media has come to a point where it's like, oh no, we need to keep creating more. Yeah. And then that makes it where, okay, well, I need to think of something for today, right? And there's always that pressure as a founder or someone who's in charge of social media or like marketing going, okay, I got to think of a post today. And it's just like, to me, that's when you know you're doing it wrong. If you feel that pressure, I can honestly like say to you that you're doing completely wrong, because I've met some of these people who do have millions of followers, and they have to create content because that's their livelihood, and they think about it totally different than you. You would be amazed at some of these comedic accounts or anything like that, these influencers out there, they have way more strategy and deliberateness in how they're going about it than you would believe. And so it's like, if they're doing that for their accounts, then why are you handling your business, your livelihood, different than how they are?
It doesn't matter if you post once a month or once a day. More importantly, is it on par? Is it in with the same strategy and the same methodology and same intentionality you have with everything else you're trying to do with your brand and its touch points to achieve the success, and why you probably are sitting here listening to our podcast all the time, because you understand branding, or you want to get a better handle on branding. So this is just as important.
Yeah, and social media is kind of weird because it's the only activity that is gauged by frequency and like very, very, very vanity metrics of followers, of likes, of really attention grabbing
comments,
tractions, things like that. And you don't do that with your website. Your website doesn't have a frequency. Your logo doesn't have a frequency. Your brochures, business
you can look
cards,
at analytics,
marketing.
but analytics are they can be misleading, right? I mean,
right.
Everyone looks
especially nowadays, is that with everything, is that your social media isn't going to automatically start driving in sales, or just like if you put out a brochure, it's not going to automatically start driving sales, but most likely it's part of a drip economy where they engage with the brochure or your social media, and they go to your website, and then maybe in a couple of weeks they reach back out, and there's a relationship building. It's not this instant, oh, call today, and they call the 1-800 number and you get a sale right away. It's not like that.
Yeah.
And that's antiquated thinking if you think that's how marketing works, and it's not. So the whole point with social media is like, no, it should be part of that bigger brand system of building that relationship. And if you're talking one way on your website, in your materials, and then on social media as, oh, whatever, as long as we're doing 2 posts today and, keeping up the frequency and the quantity, it's like, no, it's just backwards to me. And I'm disappointed that it's become that, but it's kind of the nature of the beast, because social media is completely based off that. But that's because everyone's been told that from Meta, from LinkedIn, from all these things, because they control the algorithm. And the more they make you think that this is important, the more you're going to pay for ads and for traction and for premium and verified accounts and whatnot.
And just think about it. I love you. We've used the analogy before of like, manning a ship, and you're picking a point on the horizon that this is where you want to steer the ship, the brand. And this is where we're going to go. And this is how we're going to get there, and this is the direction and the course, and you navigate the little waves in the market and everything else, but you're setting a course. And I think when you hand off your social media just to outside people, outside that don't understand your brand culture, don't understand specifically more the strategy behind your brand and why your brand is trying to signal what it's trying to signal, and it wants to partner in that and really do that. It's like slowly them grabbing the steering wheel and just turning it just a little, right? Just a little. But over time, you're going to get way off course. That's inevitable. It's your brand. If you can't tell someone those types of things about your brand, then correct me if I'm wrong, Riley, but it seems like then there really isn't much strategy on your end.
Yeah,
right?
and,
If you
and I
can't
feel like
communicate that, then
the strategy should be the thing that answers those questions. And even it could be a third party person or even a person inside of the team that you go, oh, we'll hire so and they'll handle social media accounts or whatever. And they're young, they get it.
Yeah.
And the problem there is that social media is an additional context. And so the question should be, well, how does the brand respond in this context, right? Just like if I was at a birthday party for my kid, I would act different than if I was in a boardroom with a client, or if I was at a bar, or if I was at a, I don't know, bar mitzvah or something. The whole point there is that as humans, we change per context. And so the brand should change too. So then it's like, well, how does the brand respond in this? King Arthur goes, well, how did the brand from flour on the shelves of Albertsons, now how does it respond in the context of a podcast? What does that look like? How does the brand act? What does it sound like? And that goes into them picking the right host, the right kind of writing style, all these things. And so the same thing with your social media is going, okay, if our brand, even if you're a small business, you go, how does it act and respond on social media? How does that behave? How does it come to life? Because that's a side of its personality. And if you don't determine that, if you don't ask those questions, then whoever you hire, whether they're a third party or part of your team, their personality is going to come out. They're just going to do it the way they think it's doing it, and then they just think the objective is to get likes, to get comments, to get followers, right? Because that's what you're telling them to do. And so they don't understand that needs constraints and going, no, achieve these objectives, but do it in the voice of what's proper for the brand, not just as you would. Because if you get some college girl running your Instagram account, it's going to start sounding like a college girl. And you see that. I've seen that with multiple brands where then the owner gets all high and they go, oh, wow, this is like, it's actually working. But it's like, no,
great,
the
we
whole
got all these
brand,
followers, and it's like, yeah, okay, great. It's like
they're all fraternity, but like,
yeah. And again, that works if that's who you're going after, but that's not the, and it's.
But no, to that point, I think you're right, is that works if you're going after them. And so then you get these, which is the survivor kind of bias, where people will see these brands, these small businesses who did that, and they just so happened to be going after that college audience or whatever audience, and it happened to work. And then people point at that and go, "Oh, see, we need to act like that."
That's the
and
bar
then
to
follow
set.
it. Yeah.
That's the bar. That's
the
yeah. They just set the bar, and it's like no. If you ask the right questions and look at it from the right angles, you'll understand that it worked for their specific context, for their specific scenario. It worked. But if you just copy and paste, you're not going to have the same results. You're not going to have the same success.
Oh, and that's that is what we say almost at the end of every episode, is that if there was this silver bullet to brand,
copy and paste,
then it's like, oh, here it is. Like, and it's not. And it's not like it's social media, or if you're doing live events or doing whatever, it's like there's no copy and paste. And that's what I think is so sad about
except
marketing.
For all of you out there that are bringing in more and more AI into your creative workflow, because what AI is good for is giving you the happy medium. They're going to give you the middle ground. They're not going to think outside the box. They're not going to approach it from outside the box. It is going to produce what is on par with what everyone else is doing. It's literally a big copy and paste.
Which really is no different than the employee that you don't give clear direction to. If you tell hey, just go run our social media account, she or he is going to look and go, okay, well, how do I run my social media account? How do I see the other businesses doing it? And then they're going to go do that and end up with the same results.
This is a
or
really
worse.
popular song right now, and I love this song. We're going to use the backtrack, and it's like, and it's completely unrelated to your audience, and it has a different vibe, different pace, different tempo than what the brand's tempo, the brand's pulse. It's like, I love using the analogy, and we've used this again, so I don't want to rehash, but like when a brand is like a person, you think of your brand walking into a room, right? How are they dressed? What's their hairstyle? What is their, are they outgoing? Are they more reserved? Are they, what's the vibe they're giving off? And all of us are human. We all can do that. We all can read the room when it comes to people, because we're very judgmental as humans. I mean, we look at someone at the cover of that book and we already figure we got that person pegged based on maybe the style of shoes, what they're wearing, what kind of car they drive. We do that all the time. So your brand does the same thing.
Yeah, and I feel like it's almost, sometimes I feel like I talk out of both sides of my mouth when it comes to social media, because I personally don't like social media in the sense of how much it's hijacked people's mental capacities and their behaviors. But I think the counterintuitive thing about social media is that, yes, it is important because it is a signaling device. It is a touch point. It's a major touch point, but it's not important in the metrics that they're telling you it's important in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Where the metrics that they're showing you on the dashboard and doing all that, those are all vanity metrics. They don't matter, because you could have 20,000 followers. If none of those people convert to be customers, I don't care.
It doesn't matter. It's
the same thing with your website. You could be getting millions of hits.
Well, it gets the name out there. I mean, if you're a startup, right?
It still doesn't matter.
I know, but like you said, it doesn't matter. So, but I think it's not to say that having a lot of followers doesn't matter at all. It gets for getting the name out, but you're absolutely right. It's like, just because people have heard of you or know of you doesn't mean either A, they want to buy from you, or B, they can afford you, or C, they're even interested. Yeah. You know, but they might have heard your brand, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. So I think it goes back to Walt Disney, where he says, if we lose the details, we lose everything. And that goes back to how we do anything is how we do everything. And social media is part of that. And so not just tossing it out and going, okay, well, let someone who says they know what they're doing do it for the metrics, to make me get more followers, more likes, more comments, but for making it matter. And so then how do we give it meaning? How do we make it matter? And that then makes you ask, what's going to matter to our audience, which then takes us back to the brand strategy, right? Where are they? What do they want to see? Why do they care? And again, it all needs to come back to strategy.
Yeah. We'll stick a pin in that.
For now.
Leave it at that for now.
So feel free to share this with someone, your marketing team, your social media team. And
yes, please share this episode with your social media manager.
They'll probably get replaced by AI in a couple of months anyways, if they're doing an average job. But share it, or wait till next week's episode. And I have something kind of an idea I'm cooking that I think I'm going to propose as next week's episode.
Oh, am I going to be
surprised?
5 minutes before we go in the air, you're like, okay, dude, here's what we're going to talk about. Okay. All right.
Articulate it more.
On that note, guys, thanks for checking in as always, and pour another round, and cheers.